So have you heard about the Ebola zombies? You know, the zombies in Africa, they're rising from the dead. If you do Google search for Ebola zombie, you'll notice that it's in the last 24 hours that it's going pretty viral about the fact, or the so-called fact, that Africa confirms third Ebola victim rises from the dead. Okay, and there's tons of these articles. Now all of these journalists have done their background work, right? They know that what they're writing about here and what they're scaring the shit out of you about is real, right? Let's take a look. Here's one of the articles. Africa confirms 30 Ebola victims rise from the dead. Releases picture of the first Ebola. You know, the zombies. This whole zombie thing that they've been pushing for, what, 2 years now, guys? 3 years maybe? Ever since we were kids, we heard about the zombies. But this is an article that is, and as I just showed you, there are tons of them, that's saying that that's the case.
Hello. If you're watching this, it means the Lazarus Project has gone well. A little too well. It started when the best scientists that the United States had to offer came together under the Umbrella Corporation in order to create a new steroid which would help cure degenerative muscle diseases. And to its credit, it worked. For those people who were sick, it was wonderful. Funny thing though is, if a healthy person seemed to ingest it themselves, not so good. You see, they would tend to show signs of aggression, violence towards one another. It made them inhuman. Well, to avoid any lawsuits or connection to it, the scientists decided to dump it in the LA River, hoping it would dissipate. It didn't. But 10 million inhabitants of Los Angeles quickly became infected and began showing signs of aggression. It was the similar signs that they saw the healthy specimens at the lab. They started turning on one another. It was then that we knew that the project was a success. Not in the form of medicine to help, but as a weapon. You see, now, we can take this and dump it on any of our enemies and let them take care of themselves. Now, there is a little problem of what we do with our own people, but a little collateral damage needs to be expected when you're trying to win the big war here. We need to still deal with the Los Angeles problems, which means we must destroy it through nuclear attack. We're going to nuke the area, but then we need to go in on the ground, boots on the ground, and we need to take care of the survivors. And by take care of, I mean take care of. Personally kill them. We need to protect our weapon. We cannot afford to have any more survivors. So get out there and let's take care of this.
When he was found, what he had done to this man's face, a victim was 65 years old, truly horrific. Apparently all that's left is his goatee. His eyeballs were gone, his face. It is unbelievable. Dr. Sophie, have you ever heard of anything like this? I mean, it's awful to even talk about some of the things I just said that this man did to his victim's face.
Absolutely. There are many reactions that your brain can have when you're putting in a substance such as this. These are very cocaine-like substances that will have a very aggressive reaction within your brain, and the behavior that comes out of that could be anything from aggression to ripping off basically someone's face.
The man was naked, and he was growling. I should tell everyone, too. He was growling like he was some sort of a dog as he was eating the man.
what's happening is you're putting these substances into your brain, you're moving your brain chemicals around, and then there's going to be behaviors that come from that. Anything from growling to animalistic, aggressive behaviors, convulsions. You could be looking like this man did, a zombie-like, but you're in a trance and you're not under control of your own brain.
Keep your hand out of the water. What's wrong with the water? They were unleashed into America's waterways to turn quiet streams into rivers of living death. There's something strange in the water at Lost River Lake.
You talk about Agenda 21 or the UN, in the U.S. ceding sovereignty to them. Well, you're a conspiracy theorist. It doesn't exist. So then we have American cage fighter rips out still beating heart of training partner after fearing he was possessed by the devil after he had a teeth spiked with the hallucinogenic mushrooms. So this is going in line with this. Zombie apocalypse is nigh. Blog post lays out the evidence. So it says this apocalypse is permanently on the lips and keyboards of web users worldwide. And basically, it says it's one of the firmly entrenched in our collective psyche. That's imprinting. That's mass imprinting for what's going to happen. Whatever's going to happen. So these zombie-type stories have been trending on social media in recent weeks, talking about the face eating in Miami, and even in New Jersey, throwing bits of his own entrails, this man, at police officers. Wow, again in Florida, a doctor was arrested and began spitting blood at officers, taking him into custody, also impervious to standard methods of restraint. And you can check it out. There's a link via Gawker. Then we have this baffling illness strikes Africa, turns children into mindless zombies, says the WHO. It's called the nodding disease, and it brings on seizures, violent behavior in some, debated, personality changes, and a host of unusual symptoms. Then we have the most dangerous drug in the world, devil's breath, chemical from Colombia, can block free will and wipe memory, and even kill within minutes. Victims are like zombies, coherent, but with no free will. So the Miami police have identified the growling cannibal, and they went out and they said what? His uncle described his nephew as nice and hard-working man who washed cars at a local dealership. Sounds like the vampire in Florida, where she was, They said she couldn't remember what she did. Miami police blame it on drugs, but they don't really know what happened, and they said they compared it to a zombie attack. Oh, and look at this. The University of Miami already has a term. They call it excited delirium. Maybe it's a big psyop. And if you are preparing for a zombie apocalypse, be careful, because you might get 20 months in prison for stockpiling destructive devices like what? Ooh, shotguns, but that's why they're trying to outlaw them. This is Gigi, and I'm Darko. Thank you. God bless. It's called the new AIDS of the Americas. So great. AIDS was, it was a good thing to help cull part of the black population. Now we have the new AIDS of America back. So great. Good job for the eugenicists, right? It says here that this Chagas disease caused by parasites transmitted to humans by blood-sucking insects has been named the new AIDS of Americas in a lengthy editorial published by P. Los Neglected Tropical Diseases. So it says here that they argue that the dangerous spread of this disease through the hemisphere somewhat resembles the early spread of HIV. It also says that it's hard to cure, or even impossible to cure. It affects up to 8 million people in the hemisphere, mostly in Bolivia, Mexico, Colombia, and Central America, but more than 300,000, basically 250,000 of the infected, live in the United States, many of them immigrants. Victims eventually will develop enlarged hearts or intestines, which can fail or burst, causing sudden death. So then we have Illinois Department of Agriculture secretly destroys beekeepers' bees in 15 years of research proving Monsanto's Roundup kills bees. So an Illinois beekeeper with more than a decade's worth of expertise about how to successfully raise organic, chemical-free bees is the latest victim of government tyranny. It says, according to Prairie Advocate, Terry of Apple River, Illinois, owner of this company, recently had his bees and beehives stolen from the Department of Agriculture for Illinois, as well as more than 15 years worth of research proving Monsanto's Roundup to be the cause of colony collapse disorder. Destroyed. So it's something out of the X-Files. Poland beekeepers kick Monsanto out of the hive, successfully ban bee killing genetically modified corn. So I guess it's a health freedom victory, as they're calling it, where all the plantings of Monsanto's Mon 810 genetically modified variety of maize corn that produces its own built-in Bt insecticide in every kernel has been officially banned. So, and I think in Poland they were real big on protesting internet censorship too. So They actually have some
morning story because then I got some ministries to do. I consider myself a watcher on the wall, and I'm not going to let the media get away with this this story. And it looks like CBS Sacramento, which I refuse to watch anymore, is now saying that the Sacramento zombie apocalypse was high on bath salts. Okay, so it just depends on what. Let's play this story here. I'm going to point out something to you, okay?
We're learning more tonight about the man accused of killing an elderly woman in her own home.
Please.
The suspect's father thinks his son may have been high on bath salts. Ben Sisenko is live now at the Sacramento County Jail with details on this one. Ben?
Bath salts.
Yeah, I spoke to Moses Trotter's father for the first time inside the Sacramento County Jail, and he thinks he knows the reason why his son's behavior turned violent.
Hear me out here, please.
Moses Trotter's family still doesn't know what caused the 32-year-old to turn violent. Trotter isn't talking to them, denying their visitation request.
He's not talking to
Trotter's
anybody,
father tells
allegedly.
CBS 13 he believes his son took a drug known as bath salts
Look at
the day
bath
he
salts.
allegedly murdered Carol Sturgis.
They show bath
He says
salts,
that before
but there's
the
no
attack, Trotter
evidence
had
of that.
walked to a liquor store from his mother's house in Fair Oaks. When he returned, he banged on the door, telling his mother he was overheating and speaking about demons. She refused to answer.
Do you hear that?
Trotter's father says that's when the trouble
Demons.
began. Witnesses
not
tell
bath
police they
salts,
saw
just
Trotter
like
Sunday
Miami.
afternoon breaking into homes.
Just like Miami.
Neighbors say
There was
they
no
chased
signs
Trotter
of bath
before
salts,
he
people.
broke into Carol
Better
Sturgis'
hear me
home,
on this.
allegedly killing the 79-year-old woman. Deputies arrested Trotter on Sturgis' front lawn. He was naked and covered in blood. Investigators are waiting for the toxicology report, but according to the WebMD website, bath salts don't show up on those blood tests.
They expect
Right now,
us
it's
to believe
unclear if
this was
Trotter was
bath
under the
salts.
influence of any substance at the time of the alleged attack. But some of the side effects from
Look
bath
at
salts
salts.
do match Trotter's behavior.
People get really hot,
Look.
and so they think that
I'm
the
gonna
heat's associated with
take
the
note of
clothing.
this
So they remove and strip down that
Sacramento
clothing.
PD
There's symptoms of
officer.
being erratic, having hallucinations.
And Moses Trotter missed his court appearance today. He remains on a psych hold. Moses
on a
Trotter's
psych
mother
hold.
also missed her court appearance today. She's in trouble for elderly abuse. She apparently
His mom got
had health issues.
arrested.
Now coming up at
He's
6,
on a
we're going to
psych
take a
hold.
closer look at bath salts and the eerily
Look,
similar symptoms
this is
that happened to
downtown
Moses
Sacramento
Trotter
for you guys that
allegedly
don't live
this
here.
past Sunday. That's new at 6.
All right, Ben.
Let
Thank you.
me explain something to you real quick. Did you see that Sac PD officer? See, some people, this is not going to work on. Okay, did you see the Sac PD officer Andrew Pettit? That's on Freeport Boulevard. He's their public information officer, and so they went to him to come up with this bath salt theory. It wasn't bath salts in Miami. It was a guy demon possessed ripping out pages of the Bible. Stick with me here. Here's why you can't get over on somebody whose spiritual eyes are open and was in the industry, and I believe I was in the industry for a reason. Why is an event that happened in Sacramento County, follow me on this, where they interviewed the public information officer, and I'll attach this to that. He said there was no signs of any drugs or alcohol. He was unusually calm and cooperative when they found him bloodied after murdering this poor innocent woman. He he speaks for the county, and it's the county that responds to crimes in the county. Why is the media? See, they didn't want to hear his story about calm, cool, and collected and no bath salts, so they went to the city, which is a totally different law enforcement organization, and they're asking their public information officer about a crime that occurred outside of their jurisdiction. In other words, I don't know, since you don't live here in Sacramento, let me explain to you how it happens. If a crime occurs in the county, the sheriff responds. If a crime occurs in the city responds. The original story was he was calm, cool, collected, having normal conversations, had just left church, and And I'm just going to show you the difference between their story and Fox 40's story. But you notice how they did mention demonic. Why in the world would a news agency just show all these pictures of bath salts in the background to kind of brainwash you when there's no evidence that he was on bath salts? And the responding officer for the sheriff's department, not the city police that they're interviewing there, the city police have nothing to do with this investigation. They don't run the jail that he's in. The county sheriffs do. Are you with me here? They are just getting hit. The city's public information officers to comment on bath salts because the county guy wouldn't. He already said there was no evidence of the guy being on any drugs or alcohol. This is a repeat of Miami because they can't just come out and tell you the truth. And the truth is that he was possessed by demons, had just left church. So I just want you to replay that back, go find that police officer and realize he's a Sacramento City public information officer, not a Sacramento County Sheriff public information officer. He wouldn't have responded to that crime. He has no jurisdiction over the crime. They got this guy on a mental hold. He's not allowed. He hasn't been out of this cell since he was booked. They arraigned him in his jail cell. They arrested his mother when he showed up. I'm not saying they're innocent. I'm saying something about this story is being covered from the public. So let's go to Fox 40. Last night at 10, I don't know if they'll show it on here, they played part of his CDs where he was literally speaking in demonic tongues. And this story goes on to read that he had an encounter with a woman where he said that that the word is on his CD, the word. And then he made a joke about religion. Does that sound like someone high on bath salts? He's joking about religion and he's posting scriptures on his Facebook. And then it says all of a sudden the guy turns and says, "Oh, no, no." And then he starts crying. And then he runs for help. See, this is the county right here. So SAC PD has absolutely zero to do with this story. Why is the media interviewing them? Let's go to Fox 40's version of the events.
30 about the moments before police say a naked man went on a bizarre spree and
people
ended up
don't want to
killing
hear
an
the
elderly
truth.
woman in Fair Oaks.
There's
The
no
suspect's
bath
name is
salts.
Moses Trotter. Andre Borba now live with
There's
us from the
no bath
newsroom.
salts.
You talked to a woman who apparently gave you maybe some clues as to what in the world went on there. What you have to say?
Well, Eric, hours before wandering up and down Olympic Way and allegedly murdering Carol Sturgis, it appears Moses Trotter had a run-in with some other people in Fair Oaks. It was around 6 p.m. when Daniela Sanina and her boyfriend saw Trotter at the corner of Sunset and Fair Oaks Boulevard. It started with a conversation outside a liquor store.
He handed Tim a CD and he said, "My name's Moses. This is my CD."
Daniela Sanino says although Moses Trotter was well-dressed, perhaps even fresh out of church, he seemed out of it.
That kind of was like agitated
Fresh
and seemed to
out
be
of
kind of
church.
looking around. He didn't really like make eye contact with us.
Sanino's boyfriend jokingly asked
There's
if
a
there was
CD.
any mandolin music on Trotter's rap CD.
No mandolin on there. He goes, but the word's on there.
The word.
And my boyfriend's like, "Oh, the word, huh?" And he says, "Yeah, you're going to find the word on there. I found the word. The word's on there."
And then he made a joke about religion. That's when Sanino
joke
thinks
about
Trotter may
religion.
have snapped.
And all of a sudden,
Oh, he
the guy
snapped?
turned around, looked at us, and goes, "No, no!" And he starts crying. He runs up to the car, and he's got his shirt. He's like pulling up his shirt like this, running up to the car, and I'm thinking, "Oh, God, what's going to happen?" And he grabs the CD, and he throws it in my lap. And he goes running,
He gave
crying
her a
down
free CD,
the
crying.
parking lot.
The whole incident scared Sanino.
If he would have had a weapon, who knows what would happen right then.
right.
And hours later, comfortably at home,
It's all
Sanino and her
speculation.
boyfriend turned on Fox 40, only to see evidence
7-3
they had perhaps witnessed a
on
man's
the
mental
car.
breakdown.
We were watching the news, and we hear breaking news at the top of the hour saying that there was a murder in Fair Oaks near Sunrise and Sunset. And we both looked at each other, and he says, "That was that guy we talked
That's
to."
him. Now let me tell you, just in closing, and this is important, he left church. He
broke down and cried. And what you're seeing is a manifestation of demonic activity unlike ever before, being blamed on anything but demons.
They know that what they're saying, writing about here, and what they're scaring the shit out of you about is real, right? Let's take a look. Here's one of the articles. Africa confirms 30 Ebola victims rise from the dead. Releases picture of the first Ebola. You know, the zombies. This whole zombie thing that they've been pushing for, what, 2 years now, guys? You know, 3 years maybe? I mean, ever since we were kids, you know, we heard about the zombies. But this is an article that is, and as I just showed you, there are tons of them that's saying that that's the case. Now here's our zombie. Okay.
About the zombie apocalypse starting in Miami, the guy chewing on another guy's face, they're both naked, and all that. And me myself, I've been wondering what the hell is going on. Is this media hype, more bullshit, distraction, or otherwise? And I was really looking at it like just a bunch of foolishness, without really finding a reason for the story, but just kind of thinking that it's bullshit. I'm rethinking that after I got a Skype conversation earlier today. I want to read this to you. It says, "Hi brother, thought you may want to know the virus that was, this virus was developed in Miami Institute and VTech. It has somehow got out and is mutating rapidly. They do not have a vaccine at this time, but studies show those with type O blood are not infected. This is airborne now. Still researching. We'll update when you can." The link that I was given was to National Geographic from 2010. So that tells me, you know, National Geographic wasn't picking up on the media hype of the day. But I haven't had time to go through all these links and all this research that this person has done. So I'm going to put this in a document. The link to the document that you can download will be below. I've just been so out straight. But when I saw CNN blaming the zombie apocalypse in Miami deal on bath salts, I just said, I've got to get this stuff out there. Hopefully some of you can take time to do research the links. I will do more later. There is contact information. Oh, this person used to do research with Ted Gunderson before he passed away. Talking about April, and the email or Skype, as you can see here, every knee will bow. That's the Skype account. It's okay to contact, okay to research, you know, ask questions, but I can't let this go any farther. There's something to this, evidently, and we need to be on the lookout for this. The article, I'll just tell you, I did scan through National Geographic quickly, and that was relating to the zombie apocalypse being started through the spread of a rabies vaccine. And I'm really concerned because there was this onslaught in Texas where they were dropping all this rabies vaccine just recently. I can't say that they tie together. I hope to hell it doesn't, but it's something worth researching. So anyway, I'm going to get off here, stop running my mouth. All this information that I just flashed through, all these links and descriptions will be pasted onto a document, and the link to download that document for free through Mediafire will be below. Much love.
System and aired a warning that the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Listen to this.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available.
Vision to a proposed gun law.
He isn't crazy. He's doing it to make a point. New at 5:30, NBC2's Matt Wright explains.
From the popular AMC series The Walking Dead to ZombieCon in downtown Fort Myers, zombies are a cultural phenomenon. They're now the inspiration behind an amendment to change a proposed Florida gun law's title. The new name, an act relating to the zombie apocalypse.
That's pretty funny. to add to all the other zombie craziness going on around here.
The law would allow Floridians to carry guns with them when disaster strikes and evacuations happen. But the local senator behind the zombie name says the law goes too far.
What I wanted to do ultimately was bring light to a bill that was just a little too overreaching.
Democratic Senator Dwight Bullard, representing parts of Hendry and Collier counties, says gun owners are already allowed to transport guns during evacuations. He says the proposed law would only be needed during a zombie invasion.
Let's put it in its proper perspective, because this should really be the only scenario that everyone should be walking around armed.
Inside Fowler Firearms, which sells zombie ammo and targets, some gun owners support the bill, just not the proposed tongue-in-cheek title.
I think it's a great idea because leaving your weapons behind can be more dangerous than if you take them with you.
After debate on the Senate floor today, the gun bill could now be dead.
The way the world is today, you never know what could hit you. All of a sudden, it could be zombies, it could not be zombies.
No word if it will come back to life when the legislature resumes next session. Matt Wright, NBC2.
And they actually have a link here to a website called Excited Delirium. There's evidently been multiple cases in Miami that has not been reported about this zombie behavior. They even have a research document page for police officers. This is from the University of Miami. Excited Delirium. You can't make this stuff up. Over the past decade, increased attention has been paid to the sudden and seemingly unexpected death in some highly agitated subjects being held in police custody. In most of these cases, force required to restrain or incapacitate the subject has not been sufficient to cause death, and yet they die. Symptoms of excited delirium include bizarre and or aggressive behavior, shouting, paranoia, panic, violence towards others, unexpected physical strength, and hypothermia. This is where they suddenly feel overheated and start ripping off their own clothes. And it says here, throughout the United States and Canada, these cases are frequently associated with drug abuse. But tests have shown that it hasn't been drug abuse. They think there's an underlying central nervous system disorder was the precipient cause of death in these people. Goes on to say, fact, ED as they call it, is a medical emergency that presents itself to as a law enforcement problem. ED is not easily recognized. ED containment require backup personnel. ED victims exhibit superhuman strength, are impervious to pain. Restraint positions and use of electronic control devices, taser, to override the CNS. And it says ED is a life-threatening emergency. Here it says inside their bodies, their organs are burning up. They reach temperatures where they actually are burning up and actually makes them take off their clothes. So this is why a lot of these so-called zombies are naked. So I did some research and I found 3 cases in Florida. One where a man was tasered and there's a lawsuit. The most recent one, where they ripped off the poor guy's face. This here, you might want to pause this to read this if you can. Enlarge it. This is where the fellow had to be tasered and he died. This one here is where a woman attacked a man in his motorized wheelchair. He said that she claimed during the attack that she was a vampire and was going to eat him. She was later found half naked and she had no recollection of the attack. But then there was another interesting one in Colorado. This fellow evidently was at the Denver Zoo with his girlfriend. All of a sudden he just started burning up and started taking off his clothes and put his head under water, started acting very bizarre, attacking people. It took 5 people to get him under control. And they accused him of being on drugs too, and it was found out he was not on drugs. She thought possibly he was having a heat stroke, and this is why he started the zombie behavior, attacking and biting people. In Denver, Colorado too, there was another one where a woman walked into a convenience store and just started attacking people and biting them. Then there was a case in California where a 49-year-old woman just started going crazy, and bit to death a 47-year-old friend more than a dozen times. And they said that something happened. She went crazy. Phoenix, Arizona. A man walks into a Target store and starts gnawing on some woman's foot. And then got another one here. El Paso, Texas. Man was found dead of apparently, they think it was mauled by dogs, but yet no dogs were ever found. So I was thinking, you know, you could always say, and this was in a city, El Paso, Texas, you can always blame wild dogs on zombie attacks. Right there, the dog or dogs have not been found. Another case where a naked man lunged at police, biting one in the leg. I mean, and they, yeah, I don't know if you can read that, but yeah. He says he picked up a woman and flung her around like she was a rag doll. The police were able to stop the assault. I believe this is also in Texas, where a couple were walking and they were attacked by a naked woman. It says if you don't think, oh, excuse me, this was the one where they were driving down the street and she was waving her arms in the air and they thought she was the victim, but she turned out to be the zombie. So then there's other parts of the world. Oh, I didn't do that one. A woman walking alone early Thursday morning was attacked from behind by a group of 6 other women she did not know, according to the police. After the attack, which police categorize as unusual, they identified what victim took herself to the medical center with a 2-inch laceration and across one of her legs and bite marks on her back. There was also a case, I believe this is the one that was in China, where a 6-year-old boy's penis was bitten off by his father. Evidently, they were walking down the street when this happened. Here's another one. Oh, is this Dubai? Because I know there was a case in Dubai. Yeah, Dubai. Man was sentenced to 2.5 years in prison and ordered his deportation from the UAE after he was convicted of robbing an Asian nurse and biting off parts of her face. The unidentified man also convicted of resisting arrest and biting the hands of 2 police officers when they caught him. So he got sentenced for 1 year for attacking the nurse. And here's one more that I found. If I can get it to pop up. After some confusion, which police unit should handle the case, theft and robbery, they haven't found anything missing. A 75-year-old woman was allegedly mauled to death inside her house. She'd had no pets. Results of the autopsies, who found the dead woman in her bedroom and showed that she was killed. She was mauled to death, but nothing was missing. She was just torn to shreds. So like I said, this ED is on the rise in Miami. They're not reporting it. We'll just have to keep looking. All right, bookmark my site. I'll keep everyone up to date. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you all. Bye now.
Okay. This is one of the zombies that rose from the dead. Okay. Here's the second page of that article, and it helps me remember what I'm talking about here, which is the Walking Dead. That was the name of the show I was referring to earlier, okay? The Walking Dead. Now they're saying that there is a pair of people in their 60s and 40s that have risen from the dead. When they went to bury them, they rose from the dead. And that this guy was, in fact, one of them. Now I claimed 100% I was going to be able to show you that this is bullshit. Alright, here we go. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use that image, which I saved to my desktop. We're going to use that image and we are going to do a image search, a Google Images search. I get to choose it. So let's do that image search. Click on the camera, click upload an image, click browse, go to thumbnails here. Hang on. Go to thumbnails, pull it all the way down, find my photo. There he is, right? Google it. Google the image. Alright, let's take a look and see what we got here. Okay, yeah, that's our image. Alright. Let's come on down. So what I did was I started looking through this stuff, and I found the answer. If you come on down here, you can see all the zombie stuff, you know, talking about this guy's alive in Africa, right? But if you come right here, see this one? Let's take a look at this. Here's our guy, right? Is that the same guy? Let's take a look. Alright, see the thing above the eye? See this lip? See this lip and this side of the face? See this thing on his forehead? Take away the hair. This is a Photoshop photo. Thing on the eye, lip, side of the face, this thing up here. Now of course, they degraded the quality of that photo in order to try to sell it. Now where'd this photo come from? This photo came from Hollywood. See, it says Shell Sculpture Studio. It's like, okay, how'd it come from Hollywood? Well, this guy just happened to create most of everything you've seen when it comes to sci-fi and zombies. I'll show you here. Okay, here's our guy. Okay, here we are still on the site, and we're at the About option here. We're taking a look at who created this. It says this sculpture. It says the Shell Sculpture Studio offers the finest creation and character design available anywhere. The studio has been providing concept art in the industry for over 10 years, and the owner and head designer, Jordu Shields, nice name, buddy, has been in the film and television industry since 1987. His talent as a designer and sculptor is world-renowned, and his credits include Avatar, The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, 300, Hellboy, Aliens vs. Predator, The Men in Black, Mist, Batman Returns, and the list goes on and on. X-Files, Predator, Babylon 5, and the list goes on and on. So the point is, guys, this is 100%. This gentleman created, I say gentleman with a little bit of hesitation, to be quite honest, with the people that he's involved in, and the fact that his image is now being used, modified, to scare the shit out of the entire planet. So now, maybe this guy doesn't know, but we're going to give him his spotlight, because we want him to make that image go away. We want him to make sure that people will stop spreading this lie that people are turning into zombies. Whatever you got to do, partner, you got to sue these people or whatever. If you don't, then you part of it, brother. So you need to do something about it. So there you have it. 100% clear evidence. This is fake. 99% of everything you see that comes out of your television or radio, and about 90% of what you see that hits the internet is fake, and is meant to brainwash your mind, to manipulate your reality into making you believe that something exists that does not. How much bullshit do you got to swallow before you realize you're eating turds? Logic before authority.
Sources inside a camp for illegals at Lackland Air Force Base say it's one giant emergency room. They tell me tuberculosis has become a very dangerous issue there. Now, nurses say the number of children presenting with symptoms of tuberculosis is simply staggering. Spitting up blood, chest pains, constant coughing, just some of the symptoms. There are at least 3 confirmed cases at a facility for illegals in Austin, Texas. Now, we've also learned that nurses and other healthcare workers are telling us that the federal government is covering up the extent of the health crisis. They say kids have scabies. They also say they have chickenpox and an all-out epidemic of lice so severe, they say the bugs can be seen crawling down the faces of the children. Now, BCFS is the organization hired by Health and Human Services to run the Lackland facility, the camp there, and they say no one is infected with TB at their facilities, and there are no major health issues there either. But my sources, and I have more than a half dozen, Sean, are standing by their statements. It's impossible to know the full extent of the communicable disease threat there because the feds refuse to allow random inspections of their facilities by the media.
Treason.
And as I report exclusively in my FoxNews.com column, healthcare workers have been told they could be arrested if they talk about what's really happening at that camp, Sean.
Treason.
Could a strange substance found by a southwest Arkansas man be part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention. Well, tonight, KSLA News 12 investigation reporter Jeff Farrell shows us the results of testing we had done about what's in our skies.
It seemed like some mornings it was just crisscrossing the whole sky. It was just like a giant checkerboard.
Bill Nichols snapped several photos of the strange clouds from his home in Stamps, Arkansas. They begin as normal contrails from a jet engine, but do not fade away like a normal contrail. Soon after, he saw particles in the air.
You know, because we'd see it drop to the ground in a haze.
Nichols then noticed the material collecting on the ground.
This is water and stuff that I collected in bowls. I had it set out in my backyard on my dad's pickup truck.
KSLA News 12 had the sample tested at a lab. The results? A high level of barium, 6.8 parts per million, more than 3 times the toxic level set by the EPA. Armed with these lab results about the high levels of barium found in our sample, we decided to contact the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They told us that yes, these levels are very unusual, but at the same time they added the caveat that proving the source is a whole nother matter. Barium is a hallmark of other chemtrail testing, which even attracted attention from a Los Angeles TV station. There's already no shortage of unclassified weather modification programs by the government. But those who fear chemtrails could be secret biological or chemical testing on the public point to the 1977 Senate hearings in particular, which confirmed 239 populated areas had been contaminated with biological agents between 1949 and 1969. Later, the 1994 Rockefeller Report concluded hundreds of thousands of military personnel were also subjected to secret biological experiments over the last 60 years. But could secret testing be underway yet again?
I'd rather it be something inert and benign, something that's, not causing any damage, but I'd like to know what it is.
KSLA News 12 discovered chemtrails are even mentioned by name in the initial draft of House Bill 2977 back in 2001 under the Space Preservation Act. But the military denies any such program exists. Jeff Farrell, KSLA News 12 reporting.
And, it turns out until 9 years ago, the government had the right under U.S. law to conduct secret testing on the American public under specific conditions. Only a public outcry repealed.
Hi guys, just want to go through a couple of points which I came across researching lots of chemtrail information. I got sidetracked on the Morgellons disease and the relationship to chemtrails. And what I found is the fibres that are coming out of the Morgellons victims are very similar to those of chemtrails. I then also came across a range of patents, and the patents seem to show a range of ways to produce efficiently these polymer fibres which are coming out from the sky. Now, another thing that's also come from Morgellons sufferers are these little nanobots. We have fibres from the chemtrails which are very similar to what's being found in Morgellons sufferers. The blue polymer fibres and the other colours that are coming out of their skin. We also have these nanobots or some kind of nanotechnology associated with the Morgellons sufferers, which is coming through their lesions. Is it possible that these nanobots are a most efficient way of producing the nanofibres which are used in the chemtrails, because they'd have to use masses of it for the amount of spraying that they're doing, and they've either accidentally or purposely released these nanobots onto an unsuspecting population.
One is leaving a big stripe, and ahead is a smaller plane with just a normal contrail. It vanished after a few seconds. No chemicals or whatsoever. And then it's followed by this plane at the same height, with a completely other trail, a chemtrail. These trails are gonna stick until it's become a big cloud, like you see behind these new stripes. There goes the little one without chemicals, and here's one with chemicals. Strange, huh?
Wow, that is so far-fetched. It must be a big conspiracy. No, not really. This is a conspiracy. Or is it? I don't think so. In this image, you're going to see a regular chem plane trail. With one difference. Notice the white orb in the nose of the plane as it moves down back towards the tail. Is that sun reflection? It might be, but more than likely it's not, because the orb's very specific. Notice the plane as it goes through the cloud. The plane all of a sudden disappears, but the chemtrail itself
it's still going forth. How is that possible? Oh my god, let's switch to infrared and see if we can come up with a solution. Inverted, there is no plane. The plane is transparent. That is because it is not a plane. It is simple. It is a hologram. Now in this image, there is snapshots and there is also moving video. You will see a plane in the sky. It is not laying a chemtrail or a contrail. However, do mermaids fly? This tail switches from a normal looking plain tail to a mermaid tail. It must be a hologram. Let's see. What else can we do to confirm this fact? There's a good picture. There's a nice mermaid picture of a plane. It is also transparent. You can see the clouds behind it. Okay? Slow motion for you to pick it up on the details. This was captured using the video camera and put through. Oh, look at that. More transparency. It's a real plane flying up there, believe me. Sure it is. Look at that face right there. It's gonna go right into it. There's the mouth, the nose, the eyes. That's pretty cool. But that's a real plane still flying. A transparent plane. Don't be fooled. Okay, here is another example. You see the plane flying into the cloud. Okay? Oh, by the way, it has a mermaid tail. As you can see it changing here. Frame by frame. Now this plane goes into the cloud. Okay? You expect to see a plane come back out, right? Right. That would be the logical answer. Instead, we have this little bright, shining light that many of us call orbs. That's not normal. Where did that mermaid tail plane go? Did it disappear? And here is the final example of an orb, plane, hologram, whatever you want to call it. The sun is reflecting from the top. Why is this light coming from the bottom of the plane? It looks like it's coming from the bottom of the tail. Well, it's kind of hard to tell. But nevertheless, it is a strange reflection. Okay? That's the final example. Besides spreading Morgellons and other unknowns, why are they really doing this?
Smaller amounts of the chemical perhaps would give us people like Adolf Hitler or Charles Manson or Jeffrey Dahmer. The God gene is not science fiction, it's science fact.
on the left over here, we have individuals who are religious fundamentalists, religious fanatics, and this is the expression, RT-PCR, real-time PCR expression of the VMAT2 gene. Over here, we have individuals. So let me complete. So over here, we have individuals who are not particularly fundamentalist, not particularly religious, and you can see there's a much reduced expression of this particular gene, the VMAT2 gene. Another evidence that supports our hypothesis for the development of this approach.
What you're suggesting here is by spreading this virus, we're going to eliminate individuals from donning on a bomb vest and going into a market and blowing up the market.
So our hypothesis is that these are fanatical people, that they have overexpression of the VMAT2 gene, and that by vaccinating them against this, we'll eliminate this behavior. So we have some very, very remarkable data in this next slide. Here we have two brain scans. These are fMRIs. These are two different individuals with different levels of expression of VMAT2. On top is an individual who's a religious fanatic, an individual, and we've repeated this numerous times, that has high levels of VMAT2. Now, this individual down here who had low levels of the VMAT2 gene, this individual would self-describe as not particularly religious. In each case, these individuals were read a religious text. This individual lit up the right middle frontal gyrus, shown here, and that's a part of the brain that's associated with theory of mind. It's a part of the brain that has to do with intents and beliefs and desires. In marked contrast, here's an individual who would not particularly self-describe as religious, and when they're read a religious text, what you see is that this part of the brain called the anterior insula lights up. This is a part of the brain that's associated with disgust or displeasure on hearing something.
So you're suggesting I take a CT scan with me when I'm evaluating people to determine whether I put a bullet in their head?
So the data that I'm presenting here supports the concept that we're proposing, and I think that we would not propose to do CT scans or fMRIs on individuals out in the hinterlands of Afghanistan. The virus would immunize against this VMAT2 gene, and that would have the effect that you see here, which is it's essentially to turn a fanatic into a normal person. And we think that will have major effects in the Middle East.
How would you suggest that this is going to be dispersed? The aerosol?
Well, so the present plan and the tests that we've done so far have used respiratory viruses, such as flu or rhinoviruses, and we believe that that's a satisfactory way to get the exposure of the largest part of the population. Most of us, of course, have been exposed to both of those viruses, and we're quite confident that this will be a very successful approach.
This is fascinating. What's the name of this proposal?
Yeah, so the name of this project is FunVax, which is the vaccine for religious fundamentalism.
And you have a proposal already?
The proposal has just been submitted, and I think that the data that I have shown you today would support the development of this project, and we think it has great promise.
Both dimethyltryptamine and VM82 are produced naturally in the pineal gland. So what is the pineal gland? It is a gland about the size of a pea located directly in the middle of your head. It is called the pineal gland because it resembles a tiny pine cone. This powerful gland is believed to be the seat of our soul and the gateway to the universe and higher realms. Because its structure is remarkably similar to an eyeball, it is often referred to as the third eye or the mind's eye. And it actually has a lens, cornea and retina. Why has it been ignored and given so little mainstream attention? Well, because it's our power source, and the ruling powers that be know this. Medical science refers to the pineal gland as the atrophied third eye. By the age of 12, it is already calcified and hardened, and by adulthood, it is dormant and atrophied through lack of use.
Ask yourself a simple question next time you look up into the sky. Really take a look at every cloud. If you see a plane leaving a very long trail, it probably contains some sort of chemical aimed specifically towards you. Thank you for viewing. As always, links are listed in the description. Please rate, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.
I don't know if anybody is a Walking Dead fan like myself, but if you're a fan of the TV show, comic series, or just zombies in general, this question has probably popped in your head at least once or twice. Could zombies ever exist? To start, let's define what a zombie is. In Western culture, zombies are usually portrayed as flesh-eating and brain-eating people that have been infected by some virus. But seeing as all cultures don't recognize zombies as brain-eating monsters, for the sake of today's video, we're just going to refer to it as an organism that has been infected and forced to do something for the sake of keeping it and its species alive. And now, to the science side of all this. Is any of this stuff actually likely to occur to the human race? Well, the answer may be shocking to you, but such scenarios are already occurring in nature to other species. For instance, the baculovirus infects gypsy moth caterpillars and releases enzymes that stop its natural growth process. Those enzymes then force the caterpillar to climb up to the top of the tree, where it will die and rain down the same virus on every other caterpillar in the area. The Toxoplasma gondii virus infects the brains of rats and causes their brains to release extra amounts of dopamine and testosterone, making them fearless little warriors. The rats are no longer fazed or scared by the scent or presence of cats, and, well, you can see where this is going. Cat sees mouse, a little Tom and Jerry action might pursue, and the cat eats the rat, transmitting the virus to the cat. Once the cat reproduces with another cat, the virus spreads to their offspring and everyone gets infected. Another zombie-like incident in nature takes place with the aid of Orpheocordyceps unilateralis. This fungus infects the brain of ants, carpenter ants to be specific, and causes them to travel to leaves above the ground, die, and then wait for it, sprout out a spore stalk out of its head, which is utterly terrifying. Now, I don't know about you, but some of these things are getting a little creepy, so I'm going to wrap it up with one more real-life zombie scenario. Spinochordotus tellini is a hairworm that likes to live inside of crickets and grasshoppers. It releases toxins that make the bug go suicidal, and the grasshoppers drown themselves to death. After the grasshopper is dead, the worm wiggles its way out of the bug so that it can reproduce in its new environment. So there you have it. Small zombie apocalypses are happening every day, and you didn't even know it. But to the bigger question, could a zombie apocalypse ever happen to us humans? The answer, even though it's pretty unlikely, is yes, for parasites could easily infect us.
Alright. Vampires, zombies, vampires, boy. This shit's gone viral, hasn't it? Let's back up, show you where I'm at. This interesting website called the FVZA, and thanks to Joey B for finding this and pointing it out in his one of his videos on updates and his zombie updates. He found this site through some method and briefly mentioned it. He didn't really go into detail. It's the FVZA, Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency. Of course, the minute he started looking, I'm thinking, okay, somebody set this up as a gimmick to sell something or something or another. And their description says, from 1869 to 1975, the Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency, FVZA, also known as the Vanguard, was responsible for controlling the nation's vampire and zombie population while overseeing scientific research into the undead. This site is a tribute to the men and women who served in the FVZA, especially the over 4,000 agents who lost their lives fighting to keep our country safe. In addition to paying tribute to the FVZA, this site hopes to call attention to dangerous research being done at the Santa Rosa Institute, research that runs the risk of bringing back a scourge of vampires worse than any before. And this is apparently signed by Dr. Hugo Pecos. Stories of vampires and zombie experiences can be scary. You can capture the terror this Halloween, see, by dressing up. See, I don't know. That's weird. But and then look at all these sponsors here on the site. And what's up with all that, man? Boy, these people are steeped in it. And then we gotta say you're a day walker. An incident, June 4th, 2012. A day walker in Fargo. We'll get back to that in a minute. Let's go back to where I was looking at. And we want to start here. The Federal Vampire and Zombie Agency has The Science of Vampires, Part 1. In 1616, Italian scientist Ludovico Fatinelli published his Treatise on Vampires, in which he speculated that vampirism was caused by a microscopic pathogen. He was burned at the stake for heresy. Fortunately, science plowed ahead undeterred. The information included in this section is the result of work of countless dedicated men and women. The virus. The source of vampirism is the human vampiric virus, HVV. Like rabies, HVV belongs to the order of mononegaviralis viruses with a non-segmented, negative-stranded RNA genome. Viruses in this group have a distinct bullet shape. The virus's natural host is a flea commonly found on cave-dwelling bats, especially the vampire bat. In the most common scenario, a bat which has been bitten by the flea passes the virus on to livestock and humans through a bite. Unlike many other viruses, the HVV virus is not airborne. Airborne viruses can travel from one host to another through the air and quickly cause an outbreak by infecting a significant number of people through the air ventilation systems in large public buildings, like for example a casino or shopping mall. While in theory HVV infection is possible through any exchange of bodily fluids, transmission occurs through the bite of an infected person in virtually every case. Stages of the disease, and we have some pictures here, electron micrograph of the HVV virus budding off of infected cell right. Infection within hours of being bitten. The victim develops a headache, fever, chills, and other flu-like symptoms as the body tries to fight off the infection. These symptoms can be easily confused with more common viral infections, although the presence of bite marks on the body are usually enough to confirm the diagnosis. This stage generally lasts between 6 and 12 hours, during which the vaccine is 100% effective. Stage 2, vampiric coma. Within 24 hours of being bitten, the victim will slip into a vampiric coma. During this phase, the pulse slows, breathing is shallow, and pupils are dilated. Then large numbers of people mistakenly buried alive while in vampiric comas gave rise to the myth that vampires sleep in coffins. And also the I remember that part as far as the going, supposedly they think they're dead and then they come back from the dead when in fact they never really died. While in It is commonly thought that anyone infected with HVV turns into a vampire. In fact, only a small percentage of people survive vampiric comas. Generally, the young, the old, and the feeble never come out of their vampiric comas and eventually die. The vast majority of people who survive vampiric comas are males between the ages of 18 to 35. Vampiric comas last about a day. The victim usually comes out of the coma the night after its onset. The vaccine is 50% effective when administered during the stage 2 of the infection. The longer the victim has been in the coma, the less effective the vaccine. And here it shows in 1800 France, an infected woman is giving a transfusion of goat's blood, a desperate, futile measure to ward off the disease. It was like back, they liked bleeding people back then. Oh, you're sick? Here, let's drain you. Anyway, stage 3 transformation. A bite victim who survives the coma will awaken fully transformed into a vampire. An acclimation period follows, characterized by confusion, despondency, and paranoia. Most vampires begin to hunt within 24 hours of transformation. The vaccine is of no use at this point. During vampire epidemics, many victims were buried while still in vampiric coma. Science of Vampires Part 2, Vampire Biology. A person who comes out of a vampiric coma fully transformed will have undergone a number of major physiological changes affecting the various systems of the body. The information included below is only an overview. For a more detailed account, try two classic texts, Henry Gray's Anatomy of the Vampire and Vesalius' 5 books on the structure of the vampire body. The brain and nervous system. Vampires' nervous system is similar to humans and it has proven to be their Achilles heel. Injuries to the spinal cord and brain can be devastating for vampires. While a vampire's spinal cord and nerves work as before transformation, a number of changes take place in the brain, and that altered brain chemistry goes a long way towards understanding vampire behavior. 1. Serotonin. Vampires have much lower levels of this neurotransmitter. In humans, low levels of serotonin trigger aggression and risky behavior. A study of murderers on death row revealed low levels of serotonin in their brains. 2. Dopamine. Another neurotransmitter. Dopamine induces feelings of well-being. In vampires, it is released during feeding and has a narcotic-like effect. Neural pathways activated in vampires during feeding are much like those found in addicts when using drugs. Circadian rhythms or circadian rhythms, chemical changes in the brain that help us rise and shine with the morning light, are reversed in vampires. Sense organs. Powerful sense organs give vampires an advantage both in hunting and eluding capture. Sneaking up on them is virtually impossible. They are aware of your presence long before you are aware of theirs. Normal eye, and then a vampire eye to the right. In vampires, the iris of each eye becomes hyperdilated, giving them what appear to be black eyes. While the iris dilation gives vampires excellent night vision, it renders them effectively blind in daylight. In addition, vampires suffer inflammation of the sclera, making the whites of the eyes appear red. Smell and hearing. Both senses are extremely acute, as vampires have double the receptor cells in their noses and ears compared to humans. In fact, vampires usually smell or hear a person coming long before they see one. Hair, skin, teeth, and fingernails. Part of the terror of encountering a vampire stems from dramatic changes to their outer appearance. Some of these changes are functional, while others remain a mystery. Teeth. During vampiric coma, the upper and lower eye teeth experience growth. Additional enamel is deposited on the crown of the tooth. Vampires will file the teeth to make them sharper for easier feeding. Hair. Vampires will lose all their bodily hair within 10 years of transformation, except for the tiny hairs in their ears known as cilia. Skin. A newly transformed vampire has the cilia, in case you don't know, that's your gyro. That's those tiny hairs in your ears that give you a sense of balance and keep you upright. It's like your gyroscope for your body. In case you didn't know that. A lot of people, of course, know that. But anyway. Skin. A newly transformed vampire has sickly pale yellow skin tone that turns to blue over the next few days. In time, the skin becomes more and more translucent. A fine network of veins become visible under the skin. Fingernails. Vampire fingernails thicken and grow at a rapid rate. Vampires will file their nails to a point which helps them in grabbing victims. Circulatory system. The most profound differences between humans and vampires are found in the circulatory system. These differences enable vampires to survive massive trauma, what would kill a human being. Vampire blood. Vampire blood is called ichor. Ichor. Modifications to the hemoglobin in the blood cells makes vampire blood appear black. 2. Heart. Vampire blood is pumped via contraction of skeletal muscle rather than the heart, which eventually atrophies from disuse. 3. Adrenaline. This emergency hormone, which normally kicks in during fight or flight situations, is found in consistently large amounts in vampire blood. The presence of adrenaline, along with changes in muscle, bone, connective tissue, account for vampires' extraordinary strength, speed, and aggressiveness. Body temperature. Vampires' core body temperature is only about 60 degrees compared to over 98 degrees for humans. This marked difference proved to be great help for modern vampire fighters, as it made vampires easily distinguishable from humans when viewed through heat-sensitive infrared imagery. Note the difference between the vampire and the human in the picture at the right. Seen through night vision, a vampire attacks its prey. There's a human with white and the vampire with a lower heat signature. Muscular skeletal system. Adaptations in their skeletal and muscular systems gives vampires significant advantages over humans. Muscles. Connective tissue. About 90% of vampire muscles are the fast twitch variety, compared to 50% for the average human. Fast twitch muscles enable short bursts of maximal force, ideal when hunting prey. Also, vampire ligaments and tendons thicken in response to the workload imposed upon them by the muscles. Skeletal system. Vampires' bones thicken and the adaptation necessary to support their newly powerful muscles. Aging and life expectancy. While no vampire on record has ever died of natural causes, vampires do undergo an aging process, just not in the same way as humans. Vampires do not age on a molecular genetic level, but their life of hunting and eluding capture creates tremendous wear and tear in the form of injuries to bones and tissue. Because they presented such a danger to society, most vampires were destroyed long before their outer limits of their lifespan were determined. Ancient history offers some clues, however. In ancient China, there was said to be one vampire in the emperor's court through the entire Zhou dynasty, which would put his age at 550. More accurate modern records have certified vampires of over 200 years old. Contrary to the opinions of many theologians, vampiric longevity is not the result of some pact with the devil, but rather an ability to ward off the DNA damage that occurs during cell division in normal humans. Specifically, the protective caps on the ends of chromosomes, known as telomeres, get chewed up over time in humans, but not in vampires. Here's a 125-year-old vampire photographed in Spain, 1901. Note the curved spine and the lack of hair. Though their DNA may have the ability to resist aging, a vampire's appearance will change dramatically over time. Vampires lose all their hair within 10 years of transformation. Over time, a vampire's fat stores shrink away, and his skin becomes thinner and more transparent, giving a withered, dried appearance. Aging also leaves vampires with pronounced curvature of the spine. Despite their rather feeble appearance, older vampires are still extremely powerful and agile. Many of vampire hunters made the mistake of underestimating them, and that's because they're like sinewy, the tendon sinewy, little tough stuff, man. So that was part 2. And actually didn't go on with a link to part 3. So we'll back up here. We'll do this. We'll go boom. And then we'll jump back over here and go to sociology. Alright, so vampire sociology. Vampire behavior resembles our own in more ways than we might imagine. By conducting extensive interviews with vampires along with observing their behavior in the wild, scientists have been able to arrive at a reasonable understanding of their world. The newly transformed. The first few days after coming out of vampiric coma are especially difficult for a vampire. A newly transformed vampire awakes disoriented, its judgment clouded by competing impulses and memories of its previous life, but all those are drowned out by a fierce, intense desire for blood. This urge for blood eventually snaps into a vampire into a focus and then sets about finding a way to fill that urge. The hunting pack. Though lone vampires are not uncommon, most vampires find it advantageous to either join an existing hunting pack or create one of their own. Each path has its own advantages. Joining an existing pack offers security, access to blood, and protection from other packs. However, new members are low in the pecking order and are often forced to put themselves in dangerous positions, such as on advanced scouting missions. In addition, new members of the pack are the last to feed, if they get to feed at all. Vampires possessing natural leadership skills may find it better to hunt on their own and eventually bring some of their victims into the fold. I'm sure everybody knows that show on Sci-Fi Channel called Lost Girl. If you don't know about it, just check it out once. It's about vampires. She's a succubus, basically an energy vampire, and she sucks the life force. And anyway, it's a fictional sci-fi show series every week, but you'd be surprised how much truth is laid within. Well, of course, many of you wouldn't be surprised knowing what they put in movies and everything else, but there's a lot of symbolism also in these shows like this as well. Anyway, onward. With vampires unable to reproduce, the hunting pack is a family unit for their life. In a successful pack, each vampire has its role, and there is little dissension. A typical pack is made up of 4 vampires with 1 alpha vampire and 3 underlings. 4 seems to be the ideal number for a hunting pack. Any more than that, not everyone always gets a chance to feed. Any less, and the hunting becomes appreciably riskier. So, of course, in the distant past, when vampire control was in a more primitive state, large vampire armies rose up and spread by overwhelming entire towns. Are vampires sentimental? Do they love? In a limited sense, yes. Vampires are capable of developing loyalties and behaving selflessly in the name of the pack. However, the pack is the only area of their lives in which they are not mercenary. Excuse me. Okay, alpha vampires. Vampires packs are meritocracies, not democracies. There are no elections, no show of hands in a vampire pack. The most capable hunter and leader runs the show as the strongs leads, and the others follow. The alpha vampire coordinates hunting strategy, gives assignments, and makes all final decisions. There are perks to the job. During hunting, the alpha generally hangs back in a less risky position, yet when a victim is seized, the alpha drinks first. But the job has its perils, too. For one, the alpha has a difficult task of choosing replacements for fallen packmates. In this, it must walk a fine line. While the alpha must be stronger than its fellow packmates, it cannot afford to carry weak, ineffectual hunters in the pack. But stronger packmates can rise up and become a threat to its position. Like virtually all mammals, vampires assert their dominance through display, behavior, and fighting. Vampires hiss, bare fangs, claws, showcase their prodigious leaping abilities, and to try to intimidate rivals. Physical size and power are important, but by no means the only determinant of alpha status. In fact, intellectual capacity is more important than physical prowess in determining success and longevity as a vampire. While alpha vampires would seem to be in an enviable position, they actually have higher mortality rate than the non-alphas. Each new challenge to an alpha vampire from within the pack takes its toll. Injuries pile up, including many permanently disabling variety. Vampires can lose an eye, have flesh torn off, break bones. Older vampires are far from the dashing, handsome types often seen in movies. The older vampire is likely to be heavily scarred, with parts of its face missing. The ultimate fate of the alpha vampire is a grim one, cast out of the safety of the pack, no longer able to fight. The once powerful vampire is reduced to a solitary existence, subsisting on the blood of whatever cat or dog it can win the confidence of. Eventually the alpha succumbs to malnourishment or the weapons of the vampire hunters. And I'm sure everybody's seen Interview with a Vampire. They follow this to a T. And you know, I don't know if a lot of you may not believe in this. A lot of you may think this is made up. But actually, whoever wrote this is very accurate. And they're very scientific in their approach. This is quite interesting. So anyway, fledglings, when a recently transformed vampire joins a pack, you know, you can come in and read all this. It talks about under the wing of an elder to help fledgling learn how to hunt. Hunting, goes on to treatment of victims. I'll leave a link to this, website, and everybody can come check it out. Like I said, it was Joey B who talked about it briefly. I thought I would go check it out because it looked interesting. And at first I thought, like I said, man, this has got to be some kind of hoaxy stuff, right? And but their information is as scientific and accurate as any real information concerning these creatures. You know, I don't know. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, you're crazy. Well, not so much, man. Or maybe so, but what's that got to do with it? So they keep going. They got myths, famous victims, and then versus zombies. Isn't that interesting? Famous victims. Let's check that out real quick while we're here. Giuliano di Medici and Simonetti Vesputi, Florence's #1 couple. Ivan the Terrible. After transformation, Ivan used his family as a personal smorgasbord, drinking the blood of his son and daughter-in-law before he was killed by palace guards. Nat Turner. Turner turned his bloodlust in full-scale insurrection by leading other transformed slaves on a hunting spree across the Virginia countryside. All told, his pack killed 50 before the local militia put an end to them. Edgar Allan Poe, the master of the fictional macabre, met up with the real thing when he stumbled into a couple of vampires while on a bender along the Baltimore waterfront. He was later euthanized at a nearby hospital. Bet you didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's how he died anyway. Euthanized at a hospital. That's screwed up. If that's true, well, it could always be looked up. Russian mystic Rasputin, advisor to Tsar Nicholas. Russian aristocrats fearful of Rasputin's undue influence over the Tsar's wife, lured him into a vampire hideout in St. Petersburg. After transformation, the mad monk was shot, bludgeoned, and thrown into the Neva River. Yet he still turned up at the palace the following night, whereupon he was beheaded by the Tsar's guards. Warren Harding, the 29th President of the United States. See famous killing cases who killed Warren Harding. And Rudolph Valentino, while in New York City to promote his new movie, the Italian sex symbol was lured into a speakeasy, then set upon by a hunting pack. He managed to get back to his hotel, where he was eventually euthanized. The studio claimed his death was caused by a bleeding ulcer. Interesting. Dango Productions, Inc. So you people can make of it what you want, what you will. And but with the zombie scares going on, here we go with zombies. Fighting zombies is risky business. You don't want to be caught off guard. See casino games and stuff. That's so funny. Anyway, virus. Let's see what they say about zombie viruses. The Science of Zombie by Federal Vampire Zombie Agency. Do you have the virus? Click here to find out. Zombie plague spreaders of the Norway rat and tick. Perhaps because they were easier to control and kill, zombies never acquired the cache of their undead cousins, the vampires. This phenomenon extended to science. Zombie research was considered a less glamorous field and consistently lagged behind vampire research in funding. Since development of the vaccine in 1911, the zombie threat would have been greatly reduced. However, this should not make us complacent. Most experts believe that in today's world, a zombie outbreak is far more likely than a vampire outbreak. The zombie virus, comes from the same family as the human vampire virus. The virus is propagated mainly through ticks of the family Xoxoididae, and I may not pronounce that right, but whatever. The prevalence of these ticks in tropical climes, such as Florida, is the main reason for the large number of the outbreaks in those regions. The nature of the spread zombie plagues generally depended on the place of origin. Most urban plagues were spread by aggressive rats and had been bitten by a tick, and in the country the tick would bite humans directly or pass the virus through mice, raccoons, and other animals, as was the case with vampirism. The people infected with the virus would pass it from their saliva into the bloodstream of another through the zombie bite. The stages of the disease, the stage of zombie, are the same that occur in vampires, with two major differences. In zombies, the onset of symptoms and transformation occurs much faster and has no relation to the cycles of day and night. Stage 1, infection. Symptoms of the zombie infection appear quickly. Within 1 or 2 hours, the victim will develop a headache, fever, chills, and other flu-like symptoms. Zombie infections last about half as long as their vampiric counterparts, mostly between 3 and 6 hours, during which the vaccine is 100% effective. Stage 2, coma. The zombie comas are considerably more brief than vampiric comas. While physiological changes, slow pulse, shallow breathing, are similar, the coma lasts only between 4 and 6 hours. Only the very young and very old do not survive zombie comas. Zombies have been found as young as 5 years old and as old as 90. As with vampires, the vaccine is 50% effective when administered during the stage 2 of the infection. The longer the victim has been in the coma, the less effective the vaccine. Stage 3, transformation. Zombies awaken from their comas in a catatonic state. They are unresponsive to most stimuli as they shuffle about trying to locate their prey. Unlike vampires, there is no acclimation period. A zombie will begin hunting immediately upon transformation. And this is a zombie bite victim under quarantine in Panama in 1905, so they say. And we can go to Zombie Biology Part 2. And it goes into, look at that. Atrophy of the brain. Because of their catatonic state, zombies have been unable to offer any personal testimony to augment scientific research. Therefore, all we know about a zombie is based on empirical evidence. A person infected with the zombie virus is transformed into a single-minded hunting machine with all changes to bodily function serving the zombie imperative: locate prey, capture prey, and feed. Overall, the changes that take place in zombies are more limited than in vampires and primarily affect the nervous system and musculoskeletal system. The brain, nervous system, has been of great interest to researchers, as zombie nervous tissue appears to have regenerative properties not found in humans. Okay, I'm going to stop here for just a second because regenerative properties not found in humans. So this would be why the experimentation. We know that the experimentation at the University of Miami was going on with this virus, and this is where these, some of the, I guess the main concentration of these zombie attacks have been happening lately. And then you take that on top of synthetic genome, Craig Venter, the Gulf, and what they sprayed down there in this funny synthetic genome that not only eats oil, it seems to eat everything else in its path, and also it seems to mutate. And there's videos that I put up a couple years ago from Galactic Wacko. It's still posted on my uploads concerning that. It's called synthetic genome, the Gulf syndrome or something like that. And anyway, so the brain, because it's so little of it's crucial to their survival, zombies can survive an enormous loss of brain tissue. Former FBZA zombie specialist Dr. Waxman Heimelberger tells of encountering a zombie who had lost over 3/4 of its head from a shotgun blast with no apparent effect. Spine and nervous system zombies have exhibited the ability to withstand significant trauma to their central nervous system. In a famous series of experiments conducted by FBZA scientists in 1972, zombies who had their spinal cord severed regained the ability to walk within 24 hours. Thus far, researchers have been unable to unlock the mechanism for this process of repair. Dopamine, the smell of living flesh, triggers a large release of this adrenaline-like neurotransmitter into the zombie brain. Sense organs, follow your nose, might be the zombie motto. The zombie's powerful sense of smell compensates for the weakness of their other senses. Sight, due to degradation of their cornea, zombies suffer from severe myopia. In addition, they are colorblind. Hearing, zombies go deaf within a few weeks of transformation. Efforts to rehabilitate them through ASL training have thus far proved unsuccessful. Smell, zombies have even more receptor cells than vampires. If the wind is right, zombies can smell humans from as far as several miles away. Circulatory system. As anybody who ever emptied his gun into an advancing zombie can tell you, zombies don't bleed to death. Their circulatory adaptations allow them to survive wounds that would kill a human. They had to shoot that guy, 7 times, they said, in Miami, to stop him from eating out of the guy's face last week. Blood. Zombie blood is thick and black, hence the nickname zombie oil. Heart. As with vampires, zombie blood is circulated by skeletal muscles rather than the heart. Zombie core body temperature ranges between 65 and 75 degrees, making them slightly warmer than vampires. This is due to heat released by various parasites living in zombie flesh, a phenomenon that causes zombies to emit steam in cool weather and a phosphorescence when in water. Muscular skeletal system and connective tissue changes here are good news, bad news variety. Yes, zombies are stiff-limbed and slow. Yes, they move along at a shuffle rather than a sprint, but they are also very powerful with a vice-like grip and jaws that can bite through metal. The graphic shows normal jaw, zombie jaw. Note the larger jawbone and thicker muscle in the zombie jaw. Muscle fibers become concentrated and take on a consistency of nylon rope. Ligaments and tendons thicken. Important modifications occur to the zombie jaw. Extra bone is deposited on the lower jaw to form an attachment point for larger chewing muscles. These adaptations enable zombies to bite through skull bone, get through pillars of their diet, brains and bone marrow. Teeth. They're not adapted to the powerful exertions exerted by the jaw. Teeth crack and fall out, and the holes they leave behind leak sludge like zombie blood. Eventually all their teeth are gone, and the zombie is forced to chew with its exposed jaw bones. Hair. Zombies who live long enough will lose all their hair. Decay sets in shortly after transformation of the skin. Skin turns leathery and rots away. Aging the life expectancy. The great irony of zombie life is that even as they voraciously feed, they too are being fed upon. A zombie's body is like a big petri dish, serving host to everything from bacteria to fungi to maggots and ants. The resulting state of putrefaction means, as terrifying a zombie as maybe to the eye, it actually commits far worse offense to the nose. And then get a drink of water. Okay, we're at the end of this anyway, I think, here on this one. And this is updated in 2011. Instead of 2008, the vampire page was 2008. Long-held common misconception is that zombies, and wasn't it 2011 when the CDC came out with their, or was that this year? Zombie apocalypse warning. Are you serious? Yeah, that's what I said when it came out, but they did. Controlled Center for Disease Control. What a bizarre time we live in. It is possible to determine a zombie's age based on their external appearance, specifically their level of decomposition, also known as necrotic degradation. Skin is mottled, covered with open sores. Stage 2, the ears and nose are rotting away, loss of fingers and toes. In Stage 3, large areas of skull and bone, loss of limbs, most of the teeth are gone, and one or both eyes fall out. And necrotic degradation. Quite interesting, huh? So, here's your zombies. And, of the parasitic kind, of which is the only kind that science is going to recognize. So we have all kinds of sections here, and you can check it out. You got a section on werewolves. Oh boy. Said they did on occasion conduct werewolf investigations. In fact, werewolf incidents became such a concern that the Academy curriculum was expanded in 1937 to include werewolf training. To this day, werewolves remain among the most poorly understood of the creatures of the night. We hope to rectify the situation with the information contained herein. Basically, they don't have any information on werewolves in a scientific sense. So, there you go. Take it, leave it, do whatever you want with it. But I find the explanations as far as the virus is quite interesting, so I thought that I would share them. And thank you for watching.
Magnetic signals, radiations. But in addition to that, we have a plexiglass over here that blocks the wind movements and ion movements and air flows that would, shake the plant, cause abnormal signals. We also have a motion detector in here, which will allow us to look and see whether any external motions or movements have interfered with the experiment, so we can tell when the plant is actually vibrated.
Where's the subject with respect to the cage now?
We're going to seat him, within a few feet of the cage, probably about 5 feet. And he'll be viewing a screen. He'll be watching a stimulus movie that we're providing. Mm-hmm. And then his emotional responses should carry over into the cage here and affect the plant. That's what we're hoping for.
We're going to be measuring your galvanic skin response, which means your emotional activity.
Okay. Let's hope there is some.
Is that too tight?
No, that's great.
Okay. This is going to measure your blood volume. And this will measure the muscle tension in your forehead, or the EMG.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Good.
That one. He's doing real well with that image.
That looks very convincing. I have to think about that one. Well, let's say that the experiment is quite well done. Then you're claiming that the individual's response is producing some kind of energy display. When you're finished analyzing your data and it supports your contentions, you can imagine what importance this will be. You can imagine it'll change our whole picture of how we relate to plants, that we're interacting with them all the time.
For 6 years, L. George Lawrence, a Silesian-born electronics engineer, has used an abandoned prospector's cave in the California desert as a base of operations for research in a new science called biocommunications. His purpose in choosing such a remote location was to eliminate man-made electronic interference during a series of remarkable experiments.
I started my work on plants in 1962 while I was an engineer in the aerospace industry. And at that time, it was one of our goals to develop jam-proof missile components. Now, after much experimentation, my attention turned to living plant material, in particular to plant leaves. Plant leaves are able to react to gravitational changes, to temperature changes, to electrostatic fields, and so on, simultaneously. Now, a man-made sensing device cannot do this. So, as time went on, and I experimented with these various plants and plant leaves, I noted very unusual reaction patterns. Now, at that time, I thought that my equipment was defective. It did not occur to me that I was witnessing a profound consciousness in these living plants. But I was an engineer, a nuts and bolts man. I needed to perfect a machine-based system just for the specific purpose of finding out the truth about consciousness in plants. And to my extreme surprise, it worked. There is indeed a consciousness in the plant kingdom.
Lawrence's latest equipment differs significantly from that of other researchers. It dispenses with the necessity to use electrodes directly attached to the subject. He has found through experiments that living vegetable tissue perceives signals with greater sensitivity than electronic sensors. These tiny mustard seeds, removed from a nutrient bath at the point of germination, will act as antennae to receive distant biological radiation. Emerging into the desert night, Lawrence prepares his equipment. At the end of a Faraday tube, he inserts the seeds which will monitor the signals. A rotating beam splitter will eliminate radio interference. Consulting a star map, Lawrence searches for the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear. It is to celestial coordinates 10 hours, 40 minutes by 56 degrees that he will direct his instrument. Lawrence scans the heavens, waiting for the seeds to receive a distant signal. After analysis of his experiment by the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., L. George Lawrence believes the living plant tissue in his instrument is receiving a message from outer space.
Plants communicate with each other. It would also appear, in our case, that we have actually eavesdropped on a communication that has gone on for millions and millions of years. And by some freak accident, by simply allowing a sensing instrument to remain pointed at the sky, we were able to intercept what seems to be a universal truth.
When you first say water to people, they think, oh, it's just, the stuff I drink every day and I bathe in it. I mean, what could be so special? Let's take, for example, an experiment that was done, and this is where I get really excited because it also relates to the search for communication with other star systems.
Okay.
You see in this experiment done, and this is in Water, the Great Mystery, where they take a pitcher of water, and they separate the pitcher of water into two pitchers of water, and they separate both pitchers at a great distance. And when you expose information to one pitcher of water, the other at a distance restructures itself according to that information instantly, using atomic clocks.
That's incredible.
Instantly. And what amazes me about that is over and over and over again, no matter how far you go back, and going back, actually, there's a Russian scientist named Alexander Zhijevsky, whom in the 1930s noticed that bacteria in water would constantly become agitated during the exact moment of solar flares. And he noticed this over and over and over again. Whenever there was a solar flare, the activation of the bacteria going crazy happened before the solar radiation hit the Earth. In fact, it takes 8.3 minutes for sun solar radiation to travel from the sun's 93 million miles from Earth to get here. Right. So the bacteria knew it instantly. Why? Why did the bacteria in the water know? Well, the interesting thing is our sun is 93% hydrogen, and there's oxygen in the sun. And that means that these two bodies of water at a distance are actually talking to each other instantaneously. And the bacteria in the water gets activated because the water is receiving this information. Now, when we consider the vast distances, for example, the distance between our Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy, which is 2.2 million light years away, if you were communicating using radio waves with Andromeda, if we could, it would take over 2.2 million years to get there. But yet, the hydrogen in the stars in the Andromeda galaxy and the hydrogen in our stars and the spiraling arms of the Milky Way galaxy and the water in our own bodies can communicate instantaneously over these.
See, you're onto something, David.
You see, there's something going on here. Now, what does it mean if scientists can prove that this little element that is virtually existent everywhere in the universe can communicate with different bodies of distant hydrogen instantaneously, and that it has consciousness, and that the consciousness of water is kind of like Professor Rustrom Roy at Penn State calls an alphabet. You can give it new words and new sentences, and therefore it structures itself differently according to the information you give it. And now when you kind of add all the pieces together, and you realize that no super-intelligent civilization would be broadcasting anything in the radio spectrum because it travels at the speed of light and it's much too slow. And you're starting to see this evidence of action at a distance through hydrogen aqueous systems like the sun and bodies of water and telepathy. The evidence is overwhelming.
Something about these people who actually know the truth. The rest of us here, we're sitting around in cyberspace and on the Internet speculating about whether any of this stuff is real, and yet here you have people that are walking up to a crashed disk and looking into the eyes of a wounded or dying alien. I mean, you can't even imagine what that's actually like if you're actually there. There's no more doubt in your mind at that point that we're not alone in the cosmos. And in the course of Sergeant Clifford Stone's work, he was given briefing documents which gave very precise descriptions of all 57 varieties of ET, so that if he came up to a crashed extraterrestrial wreckage, that he would know who he was dealing with when he got there and what kind of characteristics they had.
When I got out in 1989, we had cataloged 57 different species. You have individuals that look very much like you and myself that could walk among us and you wouldn't even notice the difference, except for some of the things that they might be able to go ahead, even in a dark room, and touch an object and go ahead and identify what color that object might be. They would have a heightened sense of smell, sight, hearing. The situation is that you have various types of what we normally call grays. We didn't call them grays in the military, but you had at least 3 types of the grays. You had some that were much taller than we were. The unique thing that I'd like to point out for the most part is that the entities that we did catalog were in fact humanoid, and that creates a question that yet has to be answered by science.
It seems that this particular galaxy has designed human beings exclusively to evolve within it. And to get back to your original question, yes, most of these people have essentially a very similar set of beliefs. The idea that the fundamental energy that makes all matter as we know it is conscious and has an awareness that is essentially unified.
Since 1959, the Academy of Sciences of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics has advanced research for the application of automation and cybernetics in plant husbandry. Connected to electronic instrumentation, these plants express their wishes directly, without the need of human guidance. In agricultural centers of the future, plants will show themselves to be fully rational beings, controlling their intake of water and nutrients, and even regulating the temperature and humidity of their environment. We're just beginning to understand the language of plants. It is a difficult and fascinating road wherein a multitude of surprises awaits us.